It's about the way that you're delivering something, or kind of the inner purpose and the way that you're perceived by others, or the way that your words are understood and heard by others. You can be saying the same thing in two different tonalities and it's taken a completely different way. And I actually have, I have a trait of mine that I've had several people. It's interesting because I've gotten very mixed feedback about it. And I'm kind of just having this dialogue with myself now at this point where I'm taking in both sides and I'm trying to see their angle on it. And that is that when I am in a public space or I'm in a crowded area of people, and there's, I go to a lot of business events, I go to friends' parties, I go to this, that, and the other thing. I've always had a bit of a unwritten rule for myself, and it's not that I can't laugh and have a good time in these certain environments, but I certainly, to the external crowd, when there's a lot of people I don't know around, I stay cold in appearance. I stay very steady. I stay very stout. I like to stand in a stoic way. I like to act in a certain manner. And it's funny because people said to me, another one as well is if I'm in a public setting, like I'm at just a family gathering. There's a lot of people around that are unknown to me. Someone comes out, taking a photo. I won't smile for photos. And I've had some people that said, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. You should just let yourself, like, we've seen you behind closed doors and you're fun. You love to mess around and laugh and joke. And I've tried to explain to them that the way that I currently perceive it, or had previously perceived it up to this point, was always that showing, what they were saying was show a level of vulnerability, even when you're in public. I had a problem with that because vulnerability, if seen by the wrong people, can be exploited as a weakness. And I've always seen it as my duty to myself and those I care about in a room. I mean, I'm a little on the paranoid side. I'm the guy in the mall where I'm sitting there with friends at the food court and having a meal, and we're all just relaxing, joking, having a good time. And I see sketchy guy walk in the far door, and I'm immediately alert and aware of that situation, and I'm just going to keep an eye on it.
Yeah.
I don't sit in restaurants without facing the door. I'm one of those guys. I look at it as my duty.
1,000%. My friend said there are sheep, and then there are sheepdogs. You're a sheepdog. You're looking out. Yeah, it's cool, man. God made you that way.
Yeah,
you don't have to apologize for that or change.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, I get that. I do the same thing in a restaurant. I'm very much not schmoozy. I'll go out of respect, but it's not my most enjoyable situation. I'm an ambivert. I mean, I enjoy people, small doses, and I like to hide. I like solitude and I like people. I like a good balance of it to my liking. So I totally respect the fact that you're unique and you've got some of that fierceness in you. We need some warriors, man. It's cool. Respect you.
I appreciate those words.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's funny how much you can get to.
I understand that.
You can get to tearing yourself up about something like that. And it's like,
you don't have to be like everybody else. You don't. And that's what's so cool about just realizing simple verse is I was fearfully and wonderfully made. In other words, it's interpreted meaning I was made uniquely. I don't have to be somebody else's carbon copy. I can be myself. If I don't want to smile, I'm not going to. If I'm in the mood to smile, maybe. But I don't do it just because it's bandwagon. Right. That's cool, man.
When it comes to being in those kinds of situations in life, and it's an array of different things, but you have people in your life who are close to you who maybe don't necessarily appreciate that about you. I've heard two arguments really that, I battle with as well. And that is, do you let it reach a certain point where it says, you are not accepting me for who I am, and therefore I am going to remove myself from this position within the confines of this relationship that we have, whether we're friends or we're partners, whatever it may be. Or I think what I've always leaned towards and what I believe is that part of being that, I guess, warrior archetype or being that sheepdog is part of what makes a certain tier or a certain type of man that type of man is his ability to have everyone in the room saying that they do not appreciate the fact that he is vigilant, the fact that he is stoic in his demeanor, the fact that he is looking out for their own good even though they don't know it, but he's unfazed by that, and he is able to continue to do it for them.
Yeah, that's cool. It's unheralded, unappreciated, but very necessary. And sometimes it's lonely, and I'll share a song with you later that's really cool. It's an old hippie song, Bob Dylan kind of stuff, called I Believe in You. But he just talks about the loneliness of the walk, of the faith walk, but how when God's with you, it doesn't matter because you're not alone. And that's something that I'm taking comfort in at this season in my life is learning how to be okay in some solitude and learning how to be bold enough to be unique in a crowd, and I'm guessing, I can't assume, but I'm going to ask you, I guess, would you say that what you're really craving is, because you're really good at really real conversation. That's a gift you have. And when you're in a crowd, that isn't really what's welcomed. It's more like just pleasantries and cliches and nonsense. And then you've got to sift through all that because you're really looking for something that's real and authentic.
Correct.
And so could that be why that is so, it's not motivating to be in those situations because it's not really, it doesn't have the honesty and the level of real.
You're absolutely spot on.
For somebody who's looking for real trust healing.
You're absolutely
and somebody right. That's a real friend, right? Because I don't want to pretend. I want a real friend, and I'm kind of like that. So I'm wondering if that's how you might be feeling in a crowd.
I'm absolutely that way.
Yeah. So if there's one person there that I can find that's real, and I can scan that room and track and get that, then it's not a loss.
Yes.
And that's what I'm always scanning and honing for is there somebody that'll make me comfortable, but is there somebody I can pour into? Even better, because I really like to give. That's why I take siestas and sleep hard at night, because when I'm on, I fire hose, and then I got to lay down because, I'm sure you can relate. When you give, there's a cost.
Absolutely.
And you got to get your rest, right?
That's why I'm so motivated to pursue physicality, to pursue mental fortitude to an extent. I certainly am working much more focused on the mental side now. I feel I've got the physical side down, at least to the aspect, the regard of I know what I need to do. Yeah. The mental side is difficult for me because I have all the motivation in the world and all the discipline in the world to execute, but I don't know what exactly I'm supposed to be executing on. Mm-hmm. That's the real struggle on the mental side for me, because it's, you do these things, and I think maybe you'll relate with me on this one. Maybe I'm on my own here, but I have a fairly unique outlook on affirmations. I've been recommended affirmations by a lot of people, and within the entrepreneurship space, a lot of the YouTubers and the guys I consumed content from that always talked about, how to build the man that can build the business type things. They talked about affirmations and how important it was for them. It just never clicked. It just never resonated for me at all.
I appreciate what you're saying, because you're not about BS.
Yeah.
And if what I'm saying about myself is canned and it works for you, but I'm not feeling it, I can't absorb that and accept it as truth if I really don't believe in what I'm saying.
You're absolutely, that's exactly what it is. It's standing, and these people that are going through the motions of showing you how to do it, they're standing in a mirror and they are, I am healthy, I am happy, I am successful. And I'm standing there in a mirror regurgitating these things. I'm going, what fucking good can come out of me standing here in the mirror? And how I choose to start my day is I'm going to stand here and lie to myself.
It's all from that kind of mindset of fake it till you make it kind of stuff, right? And I don't think you're the kind of guy that wants to believe a lie. And so I guess that's what we got to look at is what is the essence of truth? And I'm open to that. But I'm really not interested in fluff, pleasantries, being in a crowd for show, a lot of nonsense, a lot of small talk. I want real talk. And I want what's real because maybe God made me to have trust issues because really I'm a seeker for truth. And I've heard so much garbage that I've had to learn how to guard my heart. Because my heart's tender as much as I'm strong. I'm also a tender-hearted person. I'm a teddy bear put in a warrior's earth suit. And as a result of that, I have to be a good guardian of my heart. And that's cool.
I think a lot of those I think a lot of the real tough, real rough around the edges guys, they've got this wall, this rough-edged, tough wall that they've built, but there has never before in all of history been a wall built without something that wall was built to protect.
Good point.
That's what walls are
cool.
built for.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
I think
that's good.
The bigger the wall.
Yeah.
But it's funny because you can be a soft-spoken guy. You're soft-spoken, but your words are loud to me.
Thank you.
I hear them and I receive what you say very well because they cut through the noise, and that's what I crave. That's what I crave in human interaction and conversation with people.
It's very nice to speak with you too. I like how you talk. You're definitely consecrated, meaning like fine china. You're set apart because the dialogue that we're having here isn't really usual and customary that you're going to find.
Shy away from these,
you know what I mean?
conversations.
This is really refreshing. So
I agree. It's been
privileged
refreshing.
to be sitting in your presence.
The only time you're a little louder is when we're boxing. But
did you hear me screaming?
I
get excited, man.
I'll tell you right now. My favorite. This moment for me, I'm telling you, it's just in these moments I can feel my eyes not dilating, but I can just feel my pupils shrinking. You're just constricting. You're going into that laser, and I love that. That's a rush for me. I don't do drugs. That's my drug. Right there is moments like that.
Like physical adrenaline.
It used to be for me. I used to cliff jump. Cliff jumping into water. That is my favorite thing on this earth. Wow. It is the most healing thing for me. And it's just that moment. And when we came out into the front room, and there was you have the long rug in the front. You said, hey, you're gonna work your way down here and you're gonna freestyle your way.
Shadow box moving forward.
But you took it to the next step, and you made me visualize. You made me visualize as if it was an alleyway, and there's a bunch of bad dudes that want to stop you from getting to the other side. And that for me was like just the epitome of feeling alive.
Right now I'm a superhero, and I'm here for a purpose.
Yeah.
And they need me.
Yeah.
Yeah, motivation goes way up, right?
Oh, my God. I probably rode that high for the rest of the day.
Wow, thank you.
Just that little.
Thank you.
I could see that alley, too. That's the thing. I could see it. I could feel it. And I could feel that the ground felt different. It's just everything. You just go in that zone and the visualizations. But I really appreciated that. That was fun.
I forgot about
That was a lot of fun, man. The rope work, that was tough.
Yeah.
That was tough.
Yeah.
Footwork.
Yeah.
I never even put my gloves on that day, and I got one hell of a workout.
It's a dry swim, man. But just, getting the feet right and the rhythm, and then feeling the rhythm of it. And you start to realize that fighting has some connections to dance. And somebody with rhythm and tempo and is kind of smooth has a big advantage, I think Muhammad Ali said something. He said, long before I step into the ring and dance under those lights, he talked about how there were countless sets and reps and pre-rehearsals of things that he had to ingrain into his brain through neuroplasticity, through training and repetition. And people don't understand what goes on behind the scenes in order to peak for that one moment in time. And here we are, man, and just think about the collaborative effort of all the people that have poured into our lives and encouraged us, or even our haters or skeptics or bullies who have been there as like a workout to give us a reference point to push back against and to get tougher. All of that stuff I'm grateful for.
I feel that.
Yeah. It's all working for the good.
Speaking of, we're talking about discipline, willpower, strength, this no bullshit attitude, I suppose.
Yeah.
There's I believe it's an old Chinese proverb that goes along the lines of, it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. And something has always attracted me to that. And I've had it written down places. I've had it on my phone. I'll look at it. Something always really clicked about it for me. But some piece of me always felt, and I've liked that quote for years, but part of me always felt that it was an unfinished masterpiece. And I think I finally have discovered what the second piece of it should have been. And it came to me through being in a very, very dark place and looking at it and just coming to this realization, really. And it just flowed. It just came out of my mouth as if I had said it a million times. It's, the proverb goes, it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. And my continuation of it would be, but few know the struggle of being a warrior in a garden for too long. Because that warrior in that garden for a lifetime, and I think I correlate that with the way I feel walking around and operating and living in today's society. I do truly believe that I would be, lucky for me, I have, at one point in my life, happiness was what I thought to be my North Star. It was what I thought that I needed to be pursuing. And what I have done is I removed happiness from that pedestal and I replace it with purpose. Because happiness, it comes and it goes and it will not always be there. And if happiness is my North Star, what happens when something needs to be done and I need to show up to do it, but it doesn't make me happy? Then it's not in line with my North Star and I'm not doing what must be done whether or not I'm happy. With purpose, I can show up every single day. And whether I'm happy or not, what needs doing gets done. And
I like that.
It's just, I truly feel that I would have had, like I said, I still would have the same beliefs I do about happiness and purpose. Happiness are glimpsing moments and they're phenomenal when they come. I don't think they should be forced. They should just come to you. You should enjoy them for what they are presently in the moment and understand that they will fade. And it's like the old saying, this too shall pass. Happiness shall pass. But I truly believe I would have experienced far more happiness and even purpose as well. I mean, actually, no, I feel like purpose. I have more purpose having been born in the generation that I have been born in with the issues that we have going on in this world today. I feel that my purpose is much more important today than it would have been 70 years ago. But it's funny because I believe I would have been a lot happier 70 years ago.
There's a lot of moving parts these days, which means there's a lot of opportunity. You know what I mean? Simpler times are behind us.
Right.
Right? So you have to really be intuitive, faith-based, focused on purpose, open to a relationship, to a sixth sense, which, in my opinion, is God. Other people are on that journey to try to figure that out. I just saw the movie Jesus Revolution. It was really cool because, you know, in the 70s, you know, a lot of people were experiencing with LSD and drugs, and they were at Woodstock, and, you know, it was awesome, you know. And the girl said to her dad, who was like this real religious, you know, like very, you know, kind of sterile Orthodox kind of pastor. And she said, Dad, they're looking for something. They're searching for something. And I really appreciated the fact that God showed up, and there was a renaissance of salvation because God knew that people were seeking, and they were willing to do things that were risky and crazy in order to find something that was true. And you can get a high, but then there's a hangover, then there's an addiction. But with God, the Most High, it's only good. And so people are searching, and they're on a journey and looking for that thing. And I've been on that journey my entire life, you know. And he just revealed to me, he said, seek first the kingdom of God, and then I'll give you the desires of your heart. But what I'm realizing is that he was the desire. I just had to exhaust other things because I thought that would satisfy me, this would satisfy me. And then by trial and error, you start going, well, all right, I have been there, done that, got the T-shirt. That's temporal. You know, it was fleeting and stuff like that, but I feel like I could die. I've been having these weird thoughts, not like of suicide, but like of like at this moment in my life, I'm so happy. And I used to be so afraid of death as a little boy, and I'm not afraid anymore. It's gone. I'm like free, and I feel like I'm kind of like I'm 55, I'm in like my middle twilight years. You know, I still got a lot of health equity, and I still have these amazing kids and a beautiful wife that I love, and a practice that's vibrant and fun, and it's diverse and it's unique. But I feel like there's this something, like every night when I sit down and I light candles and I turn the TV on, and I have two 50-inch monitors. I put one that's like a fireplace on YouTube, and I'm chilling. And then I put on Gladiator, and I watch the final scene where Maximus kills Commodus with his own knife. But he had been fatally wounded before the fight, sabotaged by a guy that was a coward. And then he finishes the guy, kills him, and then he dies. And I'm just like so intrigued with the valor and the accomplishment and the exhausting of yourself in a purposeful thing that I'm drawn to that. I'm so enamored with. I want to pour my life out, and I'm willing to die. And I'm not afraid to die, and I'm going to give it away. And I hope God gives me some kind of like amazing, like fantastic ending like that. Doesn't have to be, but I'm drawn to that. And I'm drawn to people that are like so courageous and bold that they're willing to do that, to be a watchdog and stand up for Rome when an evil tyrant of a Caesar takes away the democracy of the people. And there's one guy who says, I'm not going to stand for that on my watch. I'm going to do something about it. And if it costs me my life, so be it. I'm drawn to that, man.
Where do you feel, you know, you have a lot of moments where we'll sit and we'll talk, and you'll bring something up. You'll bring something up out of the blue, you know, just completely on your own accord. And it will have been something that I was having a conversation with myself about, and we're talking in the immediate future, like very, very recently. And I have to sit here sometimes and just think through it, because it's a very surreal moment for me in the number of times that this has been occurring. Wow. When you and I will see each other, because the last time we saw each other was last week boxing, but prior to that, it had been, maybe a month or two.
Yeah. And in the mountains?
And the mountain trip was I'll run them through that. We met initially because Joe Parisi made an introduction.
Yeah.
And I remember first day I met you was right here in this place, and we recorded a podcast. Is that right?
Yeah.
And
couldn't find the place. I was late. You let me bring my dog in.
Yeah.
She's back. She had such a good experience. You were very generous and benevolent and gracious to us. It was a hit, man. Thank you.
Well,
we
hit it off immediately.
I liked you right away. Yeah.
Your words cut through the noise, and I could just hear you crystal clear. And I can feel I can feel the sincerity in your tone, in the way that you look and present yourself. And for me, we had that moment, and then the podcast went out, and we communicated periodically here and there. And out of the blue, I'm invited to a mountain retreat. So a friend of mine says, "Hey, we're going to the mountains in North Carolina. It's a mountain retreat. It'd be really cool." And
broad-centered kind of faith thing, right?
Well, I didn't know that.
Right. Oh, that was.
This is. He said.
I was duped.
Bunch of guys in the mountains in a cabin, outdoors all day. I'm picturing like hunting camp, like smoking cigars by the fire and having a cold one or
Bourbon.
something.
Yeah. Right.
I'm picturing a totally different. I'm like, yeah, that sounds awesome. And he says, "Oh, look into it, yada yada yada." And so it's probably 2 weeks before, leading up to it, 3 weeks leading up to it. I hadn't bought my ticket yet. I had looked at the website quite a few times. The honest to God truth was I was fairly new down here. I was trying to grow the business, and I was looking at a very measly $200, whatever it was, to go, and thinking to myself, I don't really know if I can afford to do it right now. Not that I couldn't necessarily afford to do it, but I just thought, I have a lot of other priorities, and am I really in a position right now to spend money on just going on a little vacation?
I understand that. That's a real issue for me too.
That was tough at times.
At times.
Finally, I'm thinking about it. And I still hadn't done it. And Tom Winslow, the founding partner of Winslow Law in Pawleys Island, who's been a client of me for some time now. We've worked together over a year now. Okay. He reaches out to me via email. He says, "Hey, did you hear about this mountain trip? I'm thinking about, I want to go, and I think it'd be a good time." And he comes to me, and I see him every Tuesday. I see him at this Go-Givers networking group that I go to. And
sounds cool.
You'd love it, actually. Yeah. We'll have to get you there sometime.
Thank you.
And he comes in there, and he goes, "What do you think about the mountain trip I sent?" I'm like, "It looks cool, huh?" "Yeah, it looks good, Tom." And he says, "Well, good." He goes, "Me and you are going." He goes, I've covered the expense."
Oh, that's great.
And
what are you going to do at this point? You got to go, right?
Yeah.
That's cool.
So I decided to go, and it wasn't until 2 days leading up to it. I was kind of packing up, getting ready, and 2 days leading up, and they go, "Yeah, it's just getting these guys around each other and really just talking about faith. It's so revitalizing to me." I looked at him, I said, "Faith?" He said, "It's a Christian men's retreat."
It's a deal change, man.
I had no idea. I really didn't. And initially, it's funny, I almost had like this knee-jerk reaction of like, "Whoa, what do you mean we're not going to just be like, oh, I don't know about that." A little time led into it, and finally I said, what the heck? I know it's been 8 years since I have even thought about God in any sort of capacity or religion at all. And I'm always open to new things. New things excite me, so I might as well lean into it.
And you like real talk.
And I like real talk.
So, yeah.
I went on that trip, and I walked in that cabin, and I had been there. I went in, got in the room, we're talking, people helping moving stuff around. Yeah. I was there for 3 hours. I was there for 3 hours, 2-3 hours. I'm sitting on that rocking chair out on that porch, just So I'm like, oh, because I'm in the mountains. I'm out of my box of
Nice.
Myrtle Beach and taking it in. I decide to get up. I walk inside, and there you are. Hey, what's going on?
That was really great.
It was a very surreal moment. And
Yeah.
you texted me, a month back, saying, hey, or it might have been a month and a half, 2 months. Hey, man, let's get some brunch. We went to Crepe Cafe in Market Common. Man, I needed that talk. I needed that conversation, like right then and there. And then again, I think it was, 2-3 weeks ago, you reach out like, hey, man, you want to do some fighting? You want to do some boxing? You want to hit some stuff? And every piece of me needed to hit something. Every piece of me needed to just go to war with myself with some camaraderie around and just experience that for a minute. I needed just a breath. It's like I get my breath of fresh air through violence or vigorous acts or something like that. Sometimes, you just have to, it's one of those things. And I had another, it was 3 weeks ago. You don't even know about this. This was probably, it might have been longer than 3 weeks ago. I was just having a day. One of those days where it took all I could do. Like, you wake up, you're laying there in bed, and it just took everything for me to drag my ass out of bed. I laid there for hours. And I get up, I ain't gonna eat nothing. I'll drag my ass into the office and hopefully just find something to do. But I didn't have anything in me that day. I was just done. Just pissed at the world, feeling cooped up, being in a very populated space. I just wanted quiet. I wanted silence. I felt just like a caged animal, and just the world was outside just prodding me that day. I finally dragged my ass out in my car, and I'm driving, and I get to the end, and I told you my apartment's right here, right next to kind of where that Piggly Wiggly is or whatever it is. And I'll be a son of a bitch. I get just the end of my pull where I pull out on 17, and I just cruise on down, go into the office. And who's turning onto that road and getting on that secondary road on his motorcycle but you?
Wow. Wow.
It was unbelievable. Wow. I remember it's so funny because I just saw you free as can be, in your element, on your motorcycle, just living that life that I felt like I was caged from. And I was like, man. And I went through the rest of that day thinking, what would Zach want me to do? Go to work. So I went to work a little bit, and then I went and I lifted weights. And then I went for a walk on the beach I went for like a 4 or 5 mile walk on the beach that night. Wow. I typically wouldn't take that much time out of my day to work out, do that, but
That's so good, man. Praise God for that, that timing.
It was weird, man.
It is weird. It's really weird, his timing. So, like, when you said earlier, like there are like these coincidences where you'll bring up something out of left field randomly that I've been thinking about. Just full disclosure, before I come to see you, I pray. I'm like, God, help me to be helpful. And I ask for, so I really have no pre-rehearsed things. I'm just trusting God that I could be beneficial and to be able to, help and somebody that might be listening, but also to help you. No less significant, maybe even more, So that's what I did, and that thought was probably prompted by the goodness of God. I can't even take credit for that, but which tells me that God cares about you, and He cares about the people that are listening, because people are also searching for that freedom, that peace, and that joy that is available. It comes at a cost, though. It does. So I'm not gonna, just say, kumbaya, There's some sacrifice that's involved to get the breakthrough, to press through and get free, that kind of freedom. It's even beyond purpose. Just to know, like, even if I didn't even have a purpose, that God loves me And so I'm just going to, talking about the affirmation. So I have a lion painting in my office with glasses on it. Remember that? It's a triptych. It's got 3 segments and separated, and it's kind of like artsy, and I like it, and it's black and white. And I like the lion image because I teach nutrition, and I think it's a good icon for reminding people to eat more carnivorous and protein foods than a bunch of carbohydrates, in my opinion, that I think are hurting us, and I'm pretty sure the research backs that up. But it's deeper than that, Colden. It's much deeper than that. What I'm trying to get people to understand is God depicts himself as the Lion of Judah. And when my little boy Isaac was born, I wish he were here today, I held him up like Mufasa and Simba. And he had like abs already, and he already had a chest. And I was like, God sent me an athlete. And my firstborn is a boy, and he's beautiful, and he's got cuts already. And I'm like, wow. And I was so proud of him. And the movie The Lion King did something for me because, in my journey to find my identity, who am I? What am I good at? How do I make a difference at a time that makes a difference with other people that want to make a difference? What's significant about Zachary? Well, the significance goes up when God gives you a firstborn son. Because you're like, man, not only do I have to get up out of bed for me, I got to get up out of bed for him. And I've got to find a way to find that lighthouse, that light, so I can not only deal with self-discipline and self-leadership, but properly lead this next generation. So to find my identity, that I am a child of God, that I bear his image, that I am fierce, and that I am like Honey, I love Honey. She's an Australian Shepherd. She watches my back. If I open the garage and she darts out, there were coyotes in the shadows. She's old, but she didn't care. That's in her instinct. You can't take it out of her, that she's going to protect me. She loves me. And I'm like that for my people. And for you, I love you too. And I'd have your back, and my confidence has gone up because the more I've learned about who God is from the scriptures, from people who are amazing mentors and teachers and pastors and podcasts and learning, and this appetite that I have every day, I'm streaming because I want more. I want to know who I am. And who are you, God? And you're a Lion of Judah, and I'm a lion. I'm like Simba, and I'm made in your image. And I want other people to know that when you're affirming yourself according to the truth of God's scripture, those aren't just canned. Those are real. You can take those to the bank. He's not a man that he should lie. So I want, like the kids that I have in there, like they took a picture today in front of the lion, because I'm teaching them, when you walk onto the soccer field next year, and today 3, and my son has already done this, but 3 of them asked God to come into their heart. They didn't want to carry the brunt or the weight of their sin anymore. They wanted to be free of that, so they knew there was no encumbrance between them and God, that the sin issue was dealt with. That got done today. It got squashed. So now these young men will be able to operate in the freedom of their new identity in Christ, meaning I can be bold. I don't have to look over my back. I got nothing to fear, nothing to hide. If God is for me, who can be against me? They're going to be fierce. They're going to be dangerous, and whoever comes into their zone is going to have problems because their identity really shifted. It's not like a faux affirmation, facade mask. That thing goes all the way down to every cell in your body when it becomes real. Their lives will be amazing now. That needs to be nurtured and developed and discipled and disciplined. However, that defining moment happened today for 3 guys. Just happened before I got here. That's why I said, man, if I die today, I'm okay, man. Like God, to be able to hand that off to 3 young dudes who are desperately looking for identity. Who am I? These fake affirmations aren't really satisfying me. I don't believe it. But for some reason, they believed me today. And I said, you guys have heard me from the sidelines. You know I'm not sinless. I'm crazy. I've come to the games with a buzz. I mean, the security guard had to come talk to me. I'm like, what would you like me to do, sir? How would you like me to be? Okay, fine. Just cheer for your team. Okay, I can do that. And then but I get unruly, man. But do you think they get a little unruly in Spain, Mexico, Italy, Brazil? Hello? And so I'm like, why do we have to sit here like we're like schoolgirls drinking tea and eating crumpets. That's not me. I'd like to be able to cheer aggressively. I'd like to root against my opponent. Is that not okay? Now, furthermore, with that being said, the enemy, the devil, Beelzebub, which means Lord of Flies. Flies can't kill you, but they can distract you. He did a real good job distracting my dad and get him to chase other women and destroy the marriage that he had. And in his later years before he died, he said, son, don't, please, take it from me and my bad experience. Don't destroy your marriage. I like to fight, and every day the way I fight is by helping people get free from the incarceration and the deception and the distraction and the discouragement of what the devil's trying to do to steal people from a relationship with God. So I know I am a lion. I am a warrior, and I know what my purpose is. My purpose is to lead people to the truth and the love of God, and so they can find the fulfillment of their true identity, so they can become just like another walking, talking ambassador or embassy of who God is, so that we can usher in the kingdom of God and bring in righteousness and holiness and justice and fairness and equity to all people. I am a fighter. I just learned how to fight differently. That's why if I die today, I'm okay, because I'm at peace with my identity. I found God, and I found myself in God. I know what I'm good at. I'm a fighter. And it's fun.
It is. It's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a challenge to be. I don't think it's getting easier. I think it's getting harder to be that kind of person, where society is going as a whole, where structures and norms and what people are being brought up to believe are going. The reality of the fact that if you were calm, cool, and collected, you talked about watching the movie The Gladiator.
Every night.
You go back to you go back to ancient Rome in those days. And if you were sitting in that stadium and somebody came up to you and said, "Sir, you're going to need to settle down. This is an extremely competitive and masculine space, and we're going to need you to feminize that, please." He'd get thrown in the pit and he'd be gone.
Yeah.
It's so culturally we're growing weak, we're growing soft, and men like myself, it's becoming far more lonely. I think that the true demise of masculinity at scale eventually will be, there is a certain breed of men who they won't give in even when all of society is telling them that you shouldn't be aggressive, you shouldn't want to be strong and powerful, you should want to be complacent, you should want all of these things. No matter what society tells them, they will continue to push that away and to guard themselves from that. The problem is, as society out here maybe captures one, maybe captures another, and you have these men, this breed of men that are few and far and in between, and they're coming, so many today in society, especially with some recent events in recent history, is they're now getting to a certain point where they're like, you know what? Society doesn't accept me, and I refuse to change. And that's step one. But the problem is I refuse to change. They refuse to accept me. So I'm going to self-isolate. I'm going to self-isolate and just work on myself. And I can be a warrior in my own garden. But what happens is when you're the warrior in the garden for too long, is you bring the war to the garden. You bring the war into your own head. I thrive in chaos, and if I do not have chaos, I will create it. I will. If I wasn't allowed to,
You got to throw a fighter a fight once in a while, right?
If you took
really
away
do.
all of it from me, if you took away if you told me, Colden, you got to live like the majority of society's living, You got to eat like most of society's eating, and you are not allowed to box. You're not allowed to lift weights. You should get minimal sun exposure. Try to stay in your small boxy apartment that you feel claustrophobic in as much as humanly possible. Probably pick up playing video games, watch TV, binge watch Netflix. Do that for a month. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take you out in public. First guy that rubs me the wrong way or is even wearing the wrong colored shirt is getting socked for no good reason. Reality.
That's just, man, I don't know why I just you don't know what I've been through, man.
You're creative if you don't have the chaos.
Yeah.
The gym is almost my structured way of creating chaos for myself.
It's important to have an incremental bleeder valve that's healthy and doesn't hurt you or others, right?
Right.
I understand.
Yeah.
Very much so.
You have to.
Yeah.
Men find negative outlets. They either find outlets, they find ways to unleash that almost in a closeted way, which to me is such a shame. It's such a shame because there's so much positive that could come from that. Be that guy that shows up to the gym and is just an absolute animal. And everyone make the gym faculty have to come up to you and say, hey, listen, man, you got other clients here. You got to settle down. Be that guy.
Yeah.
Because everyone at the beginning is going to look at you like, oh, that's crazy. That guy's nuts. Like, they're going to talk about you. They're going to this, that, the other thing. Oh, yeah, he should be at one of these CrossFit gyms, not here. You know, whatever it is. And then that one other young kid, that one other young dude is going to see you and be like, man, I like what this guy's doing. I like what this guy's doing. And all of a sudden, you just start garnering numbers and you set that example for our youth. It's one thing to tell someone something. It's another to do it and to serve as an example of what can come of someone who does those things.
I agree.
We don't have enough
Walk
people.
with me, show me, lead me, demonstrate it. Yeah.
This is a topic I'm extremely passionate about in my endeavors, in this podcast and the content that I create, the conversations that I have. I understand what it's like to feel alone, what it's like to self-isolate, to feel like the world, like you've got a little fire going and the world is trying to snuff it out. Because if it gets out of control and it's a forest fire, it's oh my God, that's a negative thing. Mm-hmm. What we need more of is this is what this next chapter of my life is, and this is what I believe it to be. Is in my way of setting an example for others. I have to not fear something that I think that any sane person would have a certain level of fear about. And that would be operating at a certain depth within society or operating as a man in society today without fearing the repercussions.
Yeah.
I no longer fear the repercussions, nor do I fear death.
Yeah.
And therefore, I am able to actually walk in society alone.
That's where you'll get the quantum leap and the freedom. That's faith. It's operating action in accordance with truth.
That's right, with truth, and not what everyone tells you is truth.
Right. It's got to be truth, and it's got to be intuitive, and it's got to be a connection between your spirit, your soul, and the divine, and your mind. You use your brain, and then you want to edit that with some wise counsel. Talk to people that you trust, that you know have a spiritual connection, right? That wouldn't mislead you, that would be cautious, right? Which of you who would go to build a tower wouldn't first count the cost, right? Do a little assessment. Do I have what it takes? Do I have the courage, the obedience, the sacrificial ability to take that leap? And then, think about it, pray about it. And that's when some of the most brilliant things happen in people's lives, where they get freedom. I have a guy right now, I love this guy. He's coming to me. He lost over 100 pounds. And it wasn't just through diet or exercise. He did whatever he had to do. God bless him. And now he's like bringing his kids in, and his kids come to me, and he takes his kids to speed camps in the afternoon. Like he has his own business now. He was working behind somebody else's counter. Now he has his own HVAC company, and it's just flourishing. So not only is he free with his physical body, he's free vocationally. He's his own boss. He's killing it. He's so happy. And now he's blessing me, because years ago I would just pray with him and talk to him about faith and just say, here's what happened. Here's what God did for me. I didn't want to work for whomever, my cousin. I wanted to have my own place. And now he does too. And I'm really super happy for him, because it's inspiring to see that God answers those prayers for people that are willing to deal with the cost, count the cost, pay the cost, take the step in faith toward truth with sacrifice, backing it up with action. And then I was telling some kids in my office, the other day, I said, we're going to win a state championship next year. We've been bumped out of the playoffs first round 2 years in a row. I said, but if you really believe what I'm saying, if we're going to trust God and we're going to do this, don't you think it matters what kind of media you're streaming in your downtime? Don't you think it matters if you're putting nutrition into your body rather than alcohol, toxins, or drugs? Like, if you believe you're a champion, wouldn't you operate differently behind the scenes? Wouldn't you nourish your mind with things that are building your faith and confidence and courage? And wouldn't you be doing the same with your physical body? If you believe you're a champion, and if you're humble enough, you're realizing, hey, I'm not there yet. I'm not good enough, so I've got to make sacrifices to get better. That would be faith, right? That's why they were here in my office today. The school just let out. Most kids would be where? Anywhere, having fun. They're like, man, we're coming in. We're going to let Dr. Zach irritate us. That's faith. Of course, I didn't monetize it. It's free. You want to come? But you got to let me do what I do. I got to have the keys to the front office and be able to coach the way I coach. And they're like, I called the parents. The parents are like, go ahead. So here we go, And so we're going to bring in some different intangibles that make all the difference. What are you doing when nobody's looking? And in the loneliness, man, it's like my daughter's birthday tomorrow, right? 14. I'm not invited. And it's not that I'm persona non grata. It's just that it's a girl party. And I get it. Because I've been out with the guys, and there's like that one dude who brings his girl and breaks protocol. That sucks. I'm not going to be that dad. I'm not going to break the estrogen zen. I want all the moms and all the girls to have a good beach party. Then they're going to go to Market Common. But I took my daughter out last night. We got her nails done nice, and we got some ice cream and whatever. But there is a loneliness to being a parent that happens to have testicles. There's something about culture that is telling women they don't need men. Okay. Well, when it's payday, they sure like me. They like me a lot. I'm real popular on payday. Like an ATM. And spit out But when you represent authority and maleness and structure and protection, you're not always going to be popular. You're not going to be popular if you represent God and you represent righteousness and authority and doing things with excellence, because this world's all about cutting corners and taking the pill and the fast and the easy button. But man, when you're old school and when you're kingdom minded and you're willing to pay the toll and you're willing to do things right, you always win in the end. So here's what I would say to you, like when you're feeling cooped up and you're like ready to fly the coop and flip and bust somebody and break their nose or what, like all of those things that you're feeling like. Adam in the Garden of Eden, right? The serpent slithers up to Eve and he's like, hey, girl, did God really say not to eat the apple? Well, where was Adam? Right? He wasn't manning his post. And so now seduction and the voice of doubt and the voice of the enemy, evil, was able to get into her head. Here's what's going on. We got to be honest about it. There's a spirit out there that doesn't want a man to hold his post, to hold it down, to hold his ground, to dig his heels in. And that's why we have divorces, and that's why we just dip and we roll, and we can impregnate a woman, but we can't, stay because she's not showing us honor. You know what I said to my wife recently? I said, do you think I love you from intention or emotion? She goes, I don't know. I don't know is when a person really doesn't want to talk about it. They try to snuff the cigarette out in the ashtray. I said, well, let me help you. It's from intention. I've decided that I'm going to love you. It's not that I have a bunch of warm and fuzzy emotions. In fact, quite to the contrary. But I just decided you've been there for me, and I owe it to you. And I decided I'm going to intentionally love you in spite of the fact that I'm getting less than warm and fuzzies, because it's the right thing to do. I'm going to have your back. And I'm not going anywhere. You're going to have to deal with it. Now, if you leave, I can't control that. But if you want to make this uncomfortable for me, I was born in discomfort. This ain't nothing to me. You want to make it hard on me? Go ahead. I'm staying right here, and I'm holding my post, and I'm going to be faithful, and I'm going to be loving. But I want you to know I'm choosing to love you intentionally, and I'm going to trust God with the rest. And I went to work, and God's working it out. I'm still there, and so is she. Sometimes we have a kabish, sometimes sparks are flying, but I like that. I like a little chaos. I'm okay with that. I don't mind drama. I just don't want the kids to have to deal with trauma. I want them to know that no matter what, Daddy was a soldier. He was sacrificial, and he stayed. I'm the dad that I wish I had. I am that dad. I'm the antidote.
God bless you, man.
Thank you, man. Praise God for the help. Yeah. So, hold your ground. Don't flip out. Don't freak out. Don't dip. Don't relapse. Ask God to give you the grace to immerse yourself in the pain and allow him to dismantle your outer man. And say, can you strengthen my inner man? I mean, right? My outer man is, but there's something inside that could use some refurbishing, some strengthening. And I think I'm pretty good here. You know what I mean? So, like, we don't have to, like, you know. But I think where the tension is actually a good thing, because God is sending that intentionally to teach men who are strong how to get stronger. It's just like the next level workout. It's like going from, you know, a quad A high school, and you're like a state champ, and you're like all conference, and then you got drafted and you got a scholarship to go Div 1, but the game speed's faster, right? And then all of a sudden you got drafted into the pros and you're first round draft pick. In fact, you're the number 1 draft pick, but the game speed and the size and the strength of these guys is way different. That's what life is like, and God allows us to deal with that next level of game speed and adversity in order to break us of some of the things that were comfortable in us, to allow us to become more like him, more like a lion, more like Jesus, lion and a lamb, more gentle, being able to tell the truth gently, but more like a lion, to bring the truth unapologetically and not be afraid of the consequences. And I think all of this tension that you're talking about, the cooped up, the searching for, it's all by design because of the love of God. It's not the problem, it's actually the solution. It's the blessing. It's that you're being loved by a God that is not feminine, a God that is very much a father, and a father that loves his kid, disciplines his kid to bring the best out of him. And I think what's going on in your life is by design to make sure that you're greater than great. And it's a good thing. You own it, embrace it. But when it's hurting and it's heavy, say, God, help me. Help me to press into you and not run from you in this. Help the relationship to get stronger. This is not a curse. You have not forsaken me. You're actually disciplining me. If you're not a son, if you're a bastard, you don't get corrected by a father. But if you have a good father, you get corrected, right? That's who God is at his core. But it's pain for purpose sake. So the breaking won't always be, you break through that, then the freedom on the motorcycle happens. So I would say press through the breakthrough, embrace it, and then, whoa, and then the freedom is so much sweeter because it's contrast. It's like the white light, the black wall. Then all of a sudden it's like, oh, wow, thank you. In retrospect, it was so worth it. In the rearview mirror, it was good for me that I was afflicted by the Lord. But I blame God, but in a reverent way. This is from you, isn't it? Oh, yeah, let's work out. You're giving me an adversity day. He did it with Joseph, put him in a prison until they found out he could reveal dreams. And then he got promoted to the second in command in all of Egypt. It's what he did with his own son to allow him to get scourged and crucified. And then he gave him the spirit to resurrect. See, there's always a breaking process in God's kingdom before you get exalted. He said, if you're willing to share in my suffering, then you will also share in my glory. But the breaking comes first. The tension's good, my friend. That's real talk, man.
That is real talk.
That's what we're looking for. Somebody to help me, sage me through, Sherpa me through the difficult chrysalis so that I can get my wings and fly like a butterfly. You know what I mean? Or like an eagle, more appropriate for a dude. I think God describes himself as an eagle. You know, an eagle leader, a lion.
There's a challenging part in it for me is I very much believe that. You know, I very much believe that certain people, you know, you're certain people just seem to be handed test after test. It's like you look at that guy and it's just beating after beating. And I have this video that I want to pull up right here in this moment and play for you that I came across the other day, and I saved it, and I think I posted it.
God looking down and saying, yeah, but that boy just won't quit. He just, watch him. He'll get back up, and he'll get up swinging, and he'll try again. He just don't quit.
That to me that's the way I would want to look at it too. And I would want, you know, it is, you see certain people where it's almost like, you're making this whole life thing look easy. But then you look at you look at other people, or you look at people who are like, you're there, you can't help but think, man, if I could just have it that easy. But it's in the moments where you look back. It's when you're able to actually look back. Like, for me, I remember being in high school and looking at the kids that got a little stockier, a little younger, that bulked up a little easier, that had a little more, you know, a little more muscle on them. I remember looking to them and saying, man, they're stronger. And man, I wish I could fend for myself that way. Or I wish I wasn't the skinny guy. I wish I could just have that natural muscle build. Funny enough, you know, I got that grit, I got that fire in me. I wanted to be somebody. I wanted to be tough. I wanted to be the guy that people had to at least think twice about fucking with.
Yeah.
I wanted to be that guy, and I wanted to be physically adept for whatever situation could come my way, whether it was playing sports or a shoving match at the bar or whatever it was, anything. I just wanted to be stronger. I wanted to be bigger. I wanted the chicks, you know.
Yeah.
I wanted it all. And
Me too.
that's what drove me. And I was so drove, but I was, you know, at the beginning, I was caught up in, man, I wish I just got it as easy as they did. But I look back now, and the discipline and the virtue that I built going down the hard path of putting on that muscle, of building that strength. Those guys, I look back at a lot of those guys that got it natural, that had it, especially at a young age. You know, they're let's just say they're not exactly in peak performance.
They're not in shape anymore.
No,
Easy come, easy go. Probably got heavy set. Took it for granted, right?
Oh,
Yeah. I know what you're saying.
those guys that
That's
were,
true.
you know, they were throwing around serious weight.
Yeah.
And I remember just looking over them like with my small 1 rep max in the gym, the school gym we used to work out in, looking at one of my buddies, and he'd be just, you know, at a young age, he was just repping 375 on back squat, just having fun. And I remember just being like, man, I want to be the guy everybody's around screaming when you're hitting a 1-rep max or when you're doing something. But yeah, people, they lose it. Easy come, easy go. Me, I still show up. I still show up every single day to that gym. Like I still see that kid. I still see that scrawny, insecure kid when I look in the mirror. I see him every day. I have not been able to really, truly, visually see what I've built ever. I always see that, but it keeps me in that predisposition, and I show up like I've got nothing to lose and everything to gain every single day.
Wow, that's good. I like to look at it like I in the same kind of seize the day kind of mentality, where I know tomorrow isn't promised to me. I like what I see. I like me. I like who I am, what I've accomplished. I just wouldn't want my last workout to be a half concerted effort. I don't think that would be valor. So when I look at the workout, I'm like, would this be honoring to my friends who are watching, to me, to God, that he's given me strength and energy and a bit of youthfulness in spite of my chronology? Shouldn't I honor him by giving like a really, really notable effort today? You know what I mean? I'm negotiating from strength at this point, not from a weakness, but yet also a certain level of desperation. Because even in our conversation, if this were the last time I had a chance to talk to you, I would want to make sure I shared my heart with you and didn't just try to act like I was cool when I'm really just would rather be honest and vulnerable. And so, back to that being vulnerable in a crowd, I don't think everybody deserves that.
I don't either.
I think I like to choose my spots with that. And it's scriptural. Don't throw your pearls before swine. So we should be very cautious where we, I think, are vulnerable. I don't give all the good stuff to everybody. I like to get to choose who I feel like, I like this guy. I'll give it to him. And I don't like to be stolen from. I like to give. I like to be generous, but I do not like to be taken advantage of. You know the difference. They do not feel anything like one another. It's nice to be generous and give where you feel like, man, this is the right thing to do. This is good. I enjoy this. I feel good about that. But for somebody to try to connive you or take from you, no good, right? It's the same thing in a crowd. I'm not here to put on a show. I don't necessarily think I like everybody here. I wish I did, but I don't. Yeah. Why am I like that? Is that wrong? I'm trying, That's
very helpful to me.
Yeah.
Now, coming up on our time limit here probably, but I want to ask you a question.
All right.
What do you believe to be your purpose? And how do you live that out in a day-to-day?
It's to represent my Father. I'm repping God. I don't always get that right. There's some Mars on my armor. There's some chinks in the armor. There's some dents. There's some vulnerabilities in the armor. There's some gaps between some of the segments, as if you were looking at a crustacean, that had an area of access where he was weak or vulnerable, where you could mortally wound him. But my purpose is to represent God, not to misrepresent him. And at the end of every day, I sit down and I watch Gladiator because I'm reviewing tape mentally and going, oh, man, that's where I blew it, Lord. But that was a good moment. And then I start looking at the things when doubt starts hitting me. I start going, you know what? This is beyond me just doing honest self-evaluation. This is the spirit of discouragement, the enemy trying to stop me from being a gladiator tomorrow. So I just say, Lord, I gave you my best today. I'm going to put my head on the pillow. And I'm going to sleep with good moral conscience because I did my very best to start the morning with you, with prayer, with coffee, with candles lit, with a picture of Jesus, with a piece of broken chain that I have laying there that reminds me that God broke me free from some addictions and There's a cross that's laying down on my coffee table that reminds me that I need to pick that cross up and be able to suffer and suffer well for the betterment of some other people. So I start my day off, and every day I say, man, Lord, let it be about you today. Let me do your will. Let me represent you well. And at the end of the day, I review tape, and then I look at Gladiator again so that I can go to bed with a positive swing thought. Like tomorrow I'm going to get up, and I'm willing to die again. If you give me another day, I'm going to die of myself, my old self, my lusts, my passions, my cravings, and I'm going to go serve some people today until you take me home. But I want to fall like Maximus at the end in a valiant effort where I got to kill the enemy, and then my life was expended and extinguished in a noble cause. And so my job is to properly represent God, my Heavenly Father, and my earthly Father, and everyone else who has poured into me. I should be reminded and be mindful to share with others. That is really what our purpose is, to be ambassadors of goodwill, light, integrity, love, agents of reconciliation, a forgiving people who can look at, the crowd and go, you know what, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. They didn't realize they were dealing with a sheepdog. They almost got punched. Let's give them a pass. They was just a sheep, and sheep don't have that kind of martial arts skills. Let them be. We're here to protect them, not hurt them. So remembering who your enemy is also part of the purpose. I don't hurt people. I help people. I'm a healer. I'm a healer, not hurtful. And if my words wound you, hopefully they were surgically done in a way that will wound you so that it won't be injurious forever. It will be temporarily for the sake of contemplation, perspective, and for repentance and adjustments and growth, but to represent God and do it the best you can. And there's blood and guts in that because there's a lot of sin in this world, in me that I battle daily and in others. And there's a lot of moving parts. So when you're trying to bring in righteousness and nobility and goodness and holiness and virtue, a lady asked me, she goes, what do you think about this? And I went a little too far. I went beyond my jurisdiction, and it was embarrassing. But again, friends don't let friends drive drunk. Here's what I think is the truth. Didn't go well. I said, well, listen, maybe I went too far. It's your home. It's your daughter. I just had an issue recently with my daughter who's 13, and I had to have a talk with her now ex-boyfriend and say, hey, you're welcome here. That behavior's not welcome here. I'm a God man, and that's what you were trying to do there is marriage behavior. You're not married to my daughter. I'd die for her. You're just dating her. Got a call the next day from his stepfather. I said, what happened? I told him. I said, I pulled him into the garage, had a man-to-man with him, and I said, you're welcome here. That behavior is not welcome here. Do you understand? Yes? No? Yes, sir? Yeah. Okay, cool. Go play. I don't know if I told you all that. So he also had his second wife and that boy on speakerphone, unbeknownst to me, which I don't think was cool. Kind of a jag-off move because it didn't give me the option of weighing my words. But I said what I said, and I stand by it. So he told me that I was dysfunctional. And I said, well, I understand. I think what you're saying, that me and my wife have mixed parenting styles. I said, like Carolina Clemson. It's a house divided, but I still happen to be very much in love with her, and we're working our way through it. He said, I don't know if I want my son to come there. I said, well, that's your jurisdiction. If the shoe doesn't fit, you don't have to wear it. I clearly get that. He took a second lap, Colden. He decided to say it all over again. I gave him a pass the first time. He said, I think your house is dysfunctional. A second time, right? And I don't know if I want my son there. And that's when I said, well, listen, let me stop you before you go any deeper. I said, the difference between me and you, in your first marriage, you abandoned your post, and you're criticizing a guy that's holding his post. I said, I'm staying, irregardless of how you want to scrutinize what I have going. I'm still in love with her, and I'm not going to abandon my post. I'm going to do my job in my first marriage, sir. I got to get a shower. I'm going to work now. We got to represent God. We don't leave. We don't back down. We're not afraid. I don't care if you're an ex-state cop, whoever you are. You're out of line. It's my house. It's my rules. That's my daughter, biological daughter, more skin in the game. That's your stepson. You guys have me all wrong. You misunderstood my kindness for weakness. I'm a Christian, but that doesn't mean I'm weak. I'm meek. I'm controlling my power. My job is to properly represent and protect and bring in the best I can the next generation, including a handsome, healthy young man like yourself, to properly lead you in the right direction and not mislead you. That's what I'm here to do. And I believe you are too. No different. Love you, dude.
Hey, man, I love you too, man.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on again.
It's my honor.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Me too. Me too.
I'd love to have you on again sometime.
Thanks. I'd like to see you fighting again.
I'd love to. I'd love to.
Might even let you use your hands next time.
Yeah, I'd like that too.